What are you doing?
Don Luis said, kill everyone.
He also said no name. She's a kid.
So what?
Do you remember me, Catalina? My name is Marco, and I was a very good friend of your father. That makes you family, too. So just tell me. Just tell me, sweetheart. What do you want?
The movie starts with Fabio meeting Don Luis, a drug lord and his boss. Fabio tells him that he is quitting the business and will give all the gang's accounting records to another associate. Don Luis smiles, says he will miss Fabio, and they toast with their glasses. After that, Fabio leaves, but Don Luis quietly signals to Marco, his right-hand man. Fabio is not naive. He knows his boss will punish anyone who tries to leave the drug trade, including him. So he quickly gathers 3 loyal bodyguards and rushes home, aware that they have only 1 hour to escape the country. Fabio got home and told his wife, Alicia, that it was time to leave. He asked his young daughter, Catalina, to pack her things, but she said she was already ready. Fabio then told her that if anything went wrong, she should go to the U.S. Embassy and give them a chip with all the information about Don Luis's illegal activities. Fabio also gave his daughter the address of his brother. He handed her a necklace with a Catalina flower engraved on it. She was named after this flower because her mother always grew them. A few minutes later, Marco and several gang members arrived and killed Fabio's men. Fabio and Alicia tried to fight back with their guns, but they were both killed. Catalina sat at the table, frozen, as she heard the gunfire. She quickly swallowed the chip. Moments later, Marco and his men came up to her. Marco acted friendly, saying he was her father's friend, but then revealed that Fabio had taken something from Don Luis, the chip. Catalina leaned in close, then suddenly pulled a knife hidden under the table and stabbed Marco's hand. She quickly climbed out the window and jumped down. It seemed her parents had taught her survival skills for moments like this. Catalina ran as Marco's men chased her. Even though they had parkour runners, motorcycles, and cars, she managed to escape by hiding in the sewers. She lifted the sewer cover and made her way to the U.S. Embassy. There, she was brought to meet an agent. He asked about her father, and Catalina said he was dead. When he asked more questions, she quickly vomited and gave him the chip. It had records of all of Don Luis's operations. The agent looked at her in shock and asked if she understood what had just happened to her. Catalina asked for her passport. In exchange for the chip, they agreed to help her leave the country and prepare the documents. A CIA agent took her to Miami. Along the way, she asked to use the restroom and slipped out through the window. She then got a bus ticket to Chicago, just as her father had told her. Once there, she went to a poor neighborhood and asked about Emilio. The man, Emilio, was Fabio's brother and Catalina's uncle. When he saw her, he was filled with emotion and hugged her tightly. Finally, Catalina let go and cried in her uncle's arms. The next day, Emilio took her to a private preparatory school and paid the principal to let her enroll in the middle of the year. As they left, Catalina became angry, thinking she wouldn't learn anything from the school. Catalina realized she needed to learn how to become an assassin. Suddenly, Emilio pulled out a pistol and shot a driver, making the car crash. He explained that contract killers were everywhere, and if she wanted this life, he could train her. But he warned her that without intelligence, she would be dead within 5 years. That's why, if she really wanted this, she first had to go to school. Catalina wanted to understand what others were thinking, so she listened quietly. Two police officers are sitting in their car talking when a drunk driver suddenly crashes into them. A woman staggers out, speaking unclearly. The officers quickly hold her down. Around her neck is a necklace with a flower pendant. It is Catalina, now grown up. She was taken to the police station, arrested for drunk driving, and locked in a cell overnight. Catalina slowly fell asleep. Late at night, U.S. Marshals brought in a prisoner and put him in the cell. Catalina opened her eyes. The drunk driving incident had been a setup to get inside. The prisoner was the real target. She changed into a tight black suit and started picking the lock. She took a spoon from the coffee cup in the cell. Quickly, she turned the camera away so it wouldn't see her. She grabbed a cup of water from the fridge and went into the electrical room. Using the cup and spoon, she made a spark and then climbed into the ventilation shaft. A few seconds later, the leaking water dripped down just enough to cause a short circuit. Catalea slipped through a fan just before the power came back and landed in the men's restroom. The guard left to get coffee, giving her a chance to act. She knocked him out, dragged his body in front of the camera, and tricked the system into unlocking the door. Catalea opened the cell and woke the prisoner, telling him to take off his shirt. When he hesitated, she fired a few shots, which drew the chiefs to the scene. They only found the guard awake, holding a gun. He was her decoy. While they searched the building, Catalea slipped away, climbed onto the roof, and escaped. After the chaos, Catalea crawled back through the vent, went to her cell, locked the door, and changed clothes. When the officers came to check, she pretended to be asleep. The next day, after her fingerprints were taken, she was released. Catalea left the prison wearing a latex suit with fake fingerprints. Back at home, she danced to music and took a long shower. Later, she went to see Danny, a painter, and her casual boyfriend, who only knew her by the name Jennifer. Catalea spent the night with Danny, but left the next morning, too afraid to reveal who she really was. Later, FBI agent Ross discovered that the victim was part of a series of 22 murders that had been under investigation for 4 years. The killer was called the Killer because he carved a Catalea flower into the chests of his victims. In New Orleans, CIA agent Richard went to the heavily guarded mansion of Don Louis, a criminal who had never been punished. Richard showed him the wounds, but Don Louis coldly denied any involvement. Richard reminded Louis that the CIA protected him, allowing him to run cocaine in exchange for information. But he also hinted that something was wrong, and Louis understood. After Richard left, Louis told Marco to take care of it. Louis suspected that Catalea was behind the murders and felt he needed to finish what he had once failed to do. Meanwhile, Catalea met Emilio, who angrily handed her a card. He reminded her of the promise he had made to Fabio to protect her, and said he never wanted her to choose this path. Emilio had always kept her safe by giving her low-risk jobs. But Catalea insisted she wouldn't stop until Louis was dead. Accepting this, Emilio gave her a new target, a hedge fund manager who ran a Ponzi scheme, stole billions, and fled. Meanwhile, Ross was reviewing security footage at the FBI office. Some agents thought the killer looked like Catalea, but couldn't believe a woman could be such a skilled assassin. At her office, Catalea fed steak to her trained dogs. Inside, Peep, Emilio's friend, took care of her weapons and vehicles. Catalea opened the safe, took out several fake passports, and picked one for Mexico. At a hedge fund manager's mansion, he was surrounded by glamorous women. Laughing by the pool, he joked that the sharks wouldn't bother them until a single drop of blood made the sharks attack like killers. The hedge fund manager told his guards to bring in more guests. Catalea swam across the pool, slipped into the mansion, and pulled out her silenced pistol. As he stood up, he saw the thief and a flower symbol carved on his body. He searched the mansion and found all his guards dead. Grabbing 2 guns, he went to the pool area and noticed a flower. Catalea was sitting there waiting. He pulled the trigger, but the gun was empty. She shot him in the leg, and he fell, begging for his life and offering to pay her double. Catalea shot him in the chest and he fell into the pool, where sharks killed him within seconds. Back in the U.S., she went to Danny's apartment, but he was away at an exhibition. She slept on his bed, holding his shirt, showing her feelings for him but too afraid to say them. Ross examined the tag killer's card when the mailman delivered an important clue, a Catalea flower found only in Colombia. He tried to connect it to cases there, but his request was denied because of CIA control. When he called Richard for approval, Richard avoided answering. Richard warned Louis to act quickly before Ross put the clues together. Louis told Marco to hunt Catalea and question Colombians until he found her family. Meanwhile, Danny came home to a dinner Catalea had prepared. She kissed him, but he stopped her, saying they should sit and talk first. Danny and Catalea spent the night together again. By noon, he secretly took a photo of her while she was sleeping, then woke her with breakfast, joking that it was lunch. Catalea became upset, feeling too exposed, and decided to leave, leaving Danny confused. Catalea met Emilio, who was furious after reading the news. She was still leaving her calling card, and now they were being hunted. 8 people, including Emilio's friend, were shot in a bar. Catalea refused to stop, but Emilio warned her that her family was now in danger too. After his son died, Emilio killed many people, but it didn't solve anything and only put his family in danger. He gave Catalea a photo of her parents to remind her of what she could still lose. She broke down in tears and went to church with Emilio and her grandmother, appearing ready to give up her quest for revenge. At a cafe, Danny told his friend that he was falling for his girlfriend Jennifer, even though he knew very little about her. When the friend saw her photo, he was stunned by her beauty. While Danny dealt with a parking ticket, the friend secretly took his phone and sent the picture to his sister-in-law at the police station. The friend asked his sister-in-law to look into Jennifer, not realizing the trouble he was causing. Soon, Ross received Catalea's photo, traced it to a police station, and arrested the technician who had been tracking it. By comparing the photo with prison footage, he confirmed her identity. Ross had finally identified Catalea. At home, she called Danny to share her feelings, but panicked when he mentioned the photo. Realizing his friend had seen it, she understood her apartment was surrounded. As SWAT broke in, she turned on the shower, slipped into the vent, and escaped. She ran through several apartments and broke into one, knocking out the tenant who resisted. In the restroom, she found a hidden harness and a sniper rifle. As Ross and his team entered her apartment, she set explosives and then used the harness to slide down a pipe into the garage. She shot the cameras and slipped into another vent just before the SWAT team arrived. Trapped in the subway, she managed to sneak away. Catalea got to Emilio's home but found it destroyed. Pete was dead on the floor, and her grandmother lay motionless in the kitchen, leaving her heartbroken. She then found Emilio tied to a chair, also dead. It was clear that Emilio had been tortured. Catalea apologized, then screamed in grief and anger. Meanwhile, Ross came home and found her waiting with a gun. She told him to sit and showed that she had rigged his chair with a pressure-sensitive explosive to prevent any sudden moves. The Catalea flower symbol was meant to lure Don Luis, but only now had he noticed. He had taken the last thing she had left. Catalea warned Ross to get the information on Don Luis from the CIA, or she would kill one family member each week until he felt as empty as he once had. She promised the bomb would be disarmed after she left, and it was. Ross then went to meet Richard to report what happened, but Richard stubbornly refused to share any information. At that moment, Ross got a call from Catalea. She warned Richard had to give her the address, or he would die. Richard laughed, thinking he was safe behind reinforced glass windows. Catalea fired a sniper shot, breaking the glass. Richard was forced to give her the address. Ross asked about his family, but Catalea hung up. She never planned to hurt them. She went to Peep's garage, picked up several guns, looked at the 2 dogs, and then drove the armored vehicle straight to Don Luis. At Don Luis's mansion, Marco ordered his men to fight Catalea, but she was too skilled. Suddenly, a sharp whistle sounded, and a rocket destroyed the room. Marco dragged the injured Luis out, while 4 gunmen sped ahead in a convoy car. Catalea rammed her truck into the convoy car, crushing it. She jumped out, opened fire, and killed the guards one by one, even Luis's closest men. Marco pulled Luis into a safe room, but after a fierce fight, only Marco and 1 soldier were still alive. Catalea killed the guard and struggled with Marco over the gun. She tried to choke him with a towel as he aimed at her, but the weapon was useless. She had already removed the magazine, torn off the slide, and drove it into his neck, killing him. Luis realized that all his men were dead. Unseen by Catalea, he slipped out of the safe room and fled in a truck, but his escape ended at a dead end, blocked by a garbage truck. Marco's phone rang. It was Catalea. Luis bragged that she would never catch him. Then he turned and saw her standing there with 2 dogs at her side. The dogs tore Don Lewis apart, completing Cataleya's revenge. Meanwhile, Danny was arrested and questioned by the FBI. He admitted he knew very little. Ross said there were still many unanswered questions. Then Danny's phone rang. It was Cataleya. She told him she was safe and gave him 40 seconds before the call could be traced, just enough time to ask 3 questions. Danny asked for her real name, and Cataleya told him. He wondered if his little bird would ever come back. She left the answer open, saying maybe one day. An agent told Ross that Danny had just received a call from Cataleya, and they rushed back. Danny whispered that he loved her, bringing tears to her eyes. Ross demanded the phone, but Cataleya ended the call before revealing anything more. Ross stared at the phone and then let Danny go. Cataleya put on her sunglasses, got on a bus, and disappeared to an unknown destination. Thank you for following the story to the end.